Utah has been a member here for many years at every conference except last year. It's okay. Join me in welcoming Mr. Paul Defrancesco.
I guess most of you know me.
Just don't recognize me.
Yeah, you just don't recognize me. But I sound the same. For those of you who don't know me, like I said, I'm from Utah. I have a wrought iron shop there called Lightning Forge. It echoes in here. I've been into blacksmithing since about 1990. Into fabrication, I started my business in 1980. We're now a second generation shop. My son is running it, which allows me to be here without feeling guilty or worried about the business being there when I get back. Over the years, I've learned a lot. My father was a carpenter, and everything translates. People who are chefs, people who are carpenters, people who are seamstresses, they all build things. Now, whether they build a shirt, or they build dinner, or they build a cabinet, or they build a railing, we're all building things. And all of those principles of construction are the same thing. My wife had a bunch of girls over, and they were making cookies, and I walked in, and they're rolling out dough, and I said, "That's basic blacksmithing." And they said, "What?" I said, "You're forging dough, and my granite countertop is your anvil." And they looked at me like I was speaking Greek. But if you have the attitude that there's only 6 different things in the whole universe and that everything is analogous to something else, there is nothing new or original, it's all just something else, another way of doing the same thing, then everything that you know that you learned anywhere else translates into what you're trying to do this time. This is one of the standard lectures my new employees get. And I figure if they have to endure, so should you.
Thanks, Paul.
Anytime. What we do has a lot to do with our attitude towards how we do it and how we approach it. We all believe that we can do these things that other people believe humans can't do. And, the first blacksmiths were considered sorcerers or purveyors of the dark arts because they worked in the dark and they kept it secret. Because those techniques were precious, valuable, and worth keeping secret. A friend of mine, Mark, was out to my area 2 or 3 weeks ago. And we did a demo up at Lonnie Jensen's place, and Lonnie was asking me some question, and he said, we've got this Russian blacksmith in our area, and how come he doesn't play? And I said, well, it's kind of a cultural thing. They don't do that. It's a European, old world kind of attitude that if you got this information, you worked hard to get it, you scavenged it from experience and from money spent and time spent, and why would I give it away because it's valuable and nothing's worth nothing. If I give it away, it's worth nothing. It's valuable, and so yeah, this one Russian smith doesn't come demonstrate or play with us because it's a cultural attitude that is different. And he kind of went, oh, well, yeah. And I was in England once, and this guy said, oh yeah, you Americans, you just share everything. You just give it all away. I said, well, yeah, we do. And here we are. And if you guys, doubled my payment for this demo, then I'd still make the same. And I'm happy to be here sharing with you, but we've got this attitude of sharing, an attitude of belief that we can do these strange, undoable things, and you need to carry that belief into the new challenges. And so the thought process that you have allows you to meet these challenges. there are 50 ways to do most anything. And the things that I will show you today are things that I have figured out how to think about. There's a mathematical process that I am aware of. I read an easy trick in a book. It's a shortcut. And the only way I know to do this is the shortcut. I don't understand the mathematics behind it. And somebody told me it was calculus. Or maybe it was trigonometry. Yeah, it's probably trigonometry. I don't know either one. He says, oh, you're doing trig. I said, no, I'm not. I'm doing a trick. And I know the things to plug into the trick, and it seems to work, and so I trust it and believe it. You know, he's got a better way, a more knowledgeable way to do it that I don't know and I don't understand and I can't think about. But the trick is simple. I can think about that. And so what I'm going to show you is how I think about things. It is far and away not the only way to do what I'm doing, but it's the way I can think of. And that's the only way that I can show you, because I don't know how to think about the other ways. If you come up with a better way, show me. I might be able to understand. But so, you know, when I show you these things, this isn't magic. It's not the only way. It's just how I know. And so, bearing that in mind, that might temper some of your questions. We're going to do a Celtic knot first, which is basically not there anymore. Oh, it's over here. We're going to weave something like this. What happened was, guy came in, it was just for the home show, and these people were going to have their home in the home show, and their name was like McCleary or something like that, and they wanted a Celtic knot in their rail. And they wanted a forged old world looking kind of railing, and they wanted a Celtic knot, and I said, you know, I kind of know of Celtic knots. I don't know much about it. They said, well, we brought the book. And they handed me the Dover Book of All Things Celtic. And it's a great book. It broke my heart to give it back. And I'm looking through this, and if you see this book, it's got these Celtic knots that are this big, and they're woven in tapestries, and they're carved in headstones, and they're not woven with metal, and they're intricate and almost unfollowable. And I'm looking at them going, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? I'm screwed, because I said yes. You know, what am I gonna do? And I'm thumbing through the book, and finally down on the bottom of a page and kind of in by the spine was this little drawing about this big. You know, the drawing couldn't have been more than 3/4 of an inch across. And it was something sort of like this without the inner circle. In fact, it might not even have the outer circle, but it was this thing. And I looked at that and I thought, okay, that one doesn't cross under itself 800 different times, because all these others, you know, they start here and they go down there and up and over and back, and they weave through and up and down, and I can't do that. But this one, I looked at it and okay, I can kind of follow that around, and maybe I can do this. And then I thought, you know, if I put a circle in it, then that would kind of tie it all together, and okay, yeah. And my thought process kind of made it work. And then I thought, how big am I going to want this to be? Certainly I'll want it bigger than 3/4 of an inch. You know, because if I'm going to build it out of steel, it just has to be. So what have I got to work with? And I started looking around the shop, and I thought, well, you know, I've got some circles this big. Well, I got a bunch of pipe. You know, I got 1.25 inch, 1.5 inch, 2.5 inch pipe. I have pipe. And I've got round bar, and I started thinking, okay, about or so. You know, and 3/8 started to sound really good. 3/8 is highly bendable. You know, it's easy to work with. So 3/8 it is. You know, they came to me for a knot. I'm building the knot that I want. And so I decided that, you know, if the rail's going to be this tall, and it's going to be, you know, this far up off the floor, and so I've got this much to work with, and this sounds about right. This sounds about right. So then I went to the drawing board, and I learned back in junior high that if you can draw it, you can build it. And heaven knows there's been times I just started picking up things and working them around and I didn't know where I was going. But this time I had to know where I was going and how to get there. So I had to think it through from the beginning, which for me is a real rarity and a struggle. But I looked at the picture and I said, okay, if this is going to go around, this one, we got 4 corners in the middle, so we can start with 4 corners. And then we got 4 circles, and we can do 4 circles. And if it's going to be this big, and so I started drawing circles, and then I started drawing these, and I sized these circles to sizes of pipe that I had. Ergo, these pieces of pipe. And then I figured, so it's going to come around and then go down, and as I started to draw this, I figured where this point and that point would be, so that if this material was that big, it would be the right place. And so I cut out these pieces, so that these can mate there. What's that? Can we get a shot of the jig? So, this goes on here, this goes around there. Before I kind of hammered and flattened it, this was a lot tighter. You can see now that it's kind of grown, and this one is kind of woggled off, and this is not perfect with the jig anymore, but the jig is where we started. And then I had to figure out how to weave these in, and I had made a basket at this point. And when I made the first basket I ever made, I developed a great respect for basket weavers, whom I used to disparage. You went to college, went in, advanced basket weaving, as an insult. Well, let me tell you, basket weaving can get very advanced, and if somebody is capable of doing that, they deserve your respect. Because it's not as easy as you'd think. Anyway, we can pass this around if anybody wants to look at it. This is a particularly bad example, because it's not even or balanced. It got wobbly, and I just let it. But anyway, as I drew the picture with the lines full scale, I had to determine what overlapped, what underlapped, and I had to get the process in my mind, because as we come around here and they both come down, we come around these, and then we come around that, and then over and into here, and back out, and over and around, and it's all got a flow. And so doing this side is the same as doing this side. It just comes around that corner, and we do it again, and around that corner, and we do it again, and around that corner, until we get there. And then I took a piece of rope, and I wound it around there, straightened it out, and 80 inches is about enough for this. And I designed it so that I could roll a 10-inch circle, and the inside circle I wrapped around a piece of 3.5-inch pipe, or 3-inch pipe, which is 3.5 ID, which gives me about 4 inches. By the time I wrap it around, it springs out a little bit. I got a 4-inch circle. And my circles, are here. So that's wrapped around a 3-inch pipe, and I actually rolled this. I've got a roller, but I had a piece of 10-inch ducting that, I pulled the first ones of these around. And so I'm working with equipment that I have, with materials that I'm comfortable with, and the overall size is flexible for me. They all have to be, I had to make a bunch of them, and they all had to be the same, but, it can be any size I choose. So there was flexibility that I had, and flexibility that I didn't. They've all got to be the same, they've got to be identical. It's got to work, but it doesn't have to be structurally strong. I have determined what I care about and what I don't care about. I care about that I can make it with materials that I have on hand, with processes that I have in-house, and I don't care what size the bar is, other than I can work with it. So this was the thought process behind it, the motivation that drove it, and they brought me the book. A book I would suggest you find and look at, and if you're interested, go buy, because it's a Dover book, which makes it cheap. They do good books, and there's oodles of information, a lot of which will be undoable, Because a lot of these, somebody drew it out and then they carved it in stone, and not that carving stone isn't difficult, but it's easy to weave when you're carving in stone. It's a lot harder to weave when you're doing it in steel or iron or whatever. Yeah?
Title of the book again?
It's a Dover book about Celtic thing. I called it All Things Celtic, but that was me. Anyway, so what you're going to hear today is Gospel According to Paul. Because this is my thoughts and attitudes and beliefs. I can only give you my beliefs. I realize they may conflict with many of yours. That's okay. George M. Cohan said, everyone's entitled to my opinion. A rule I have lived by, lo these many years. So, let's get started. I cut 80 inches of bar, and I bent one end so that it would match the radius here. Would somebody hold this up for me a little bit? When I laid this out, the first time I realized that going around here would have to come over the top of this. So this slot is deep. This slot doesn't have to be deep, so I didn't make it deep. And this first piece will go right there.
Will it stay there?
Now it will, yeah. And the first, it only takes about 10 or 15 minutes to Oop. So we come to here, and I want a tight bend, so I take a short heat right there. And I just feel this start to go. And I was checking last night to make sure that I had room. Okay, so there's my first little bit of bend. And then I just kind of slowly work it around, catching the top of that tube. And at this point, I don't really need that anymore. And when I go past the open spot there, I take a big enough heat that I can just kind of bridge over it gently. So if you guys decide to do a knot of your own, you size it to the materials you've got on hand. Now we take a good hard local heat right there and then kink that around. Now right there, not going to quite make it all the way around, so I take a little more heat. This should never be difficult. I need to get this down to the pin. If I left the pin taller, then I wouldn't be able to go past it. I need somebody to get a fire going, because once this is woven, I'm going to need a fire. Andy? Is Andy here? Andy. Oh. And I'm just pushing that down so that when I come over the top, it's out of my way. And we're going to mangle this pretty bad before we are done. The biggest problem usually is finding enough room to start your swing. Guess I ought to be wearing my safety glasses, huh? Had to look up, make sure everybody was still awake. Any questions, comments? Just wondering how long it's going to take this paint to dry? How long? What? What's that? Dan and I both belong to a trade organization, and it's called NOMA, the National Ornamental and Miscellaneous Metals Association. It is more for professionals than hobbyists, though there are some hobbyists that attend once in a while. A lot to be learned there. Say that again? No, I'm going to put the rings into this. That's where most of the time is going to be, is in the weaving of the rings. That was the part that had me nervous. Because I knew I could weave this around one way or another. And I've thought about how to make this easier. There's times when I thought that, I could make sockets and these could all drop in individually. They could be clamps or tighter, or You know, I could bring it to here and then drop in that pin and pull it around and maybe pull the pin out. You know, a lot of ways that this could happen. I never got to it. Okay. We now have a full woven thing, and I cut 81 inches. I knew 80 was enough, but I was worried. Didn't want to run short in front of people, so I cut it a little long. And now I'm going to just take. Normally, I would go to the bandsaw and cut that, and I guess I could quench it, and we could still do that. Sometimes getting it off of the jig is more work than you suspect it's going to be. That one tight slot right there that's giving me grief. There we go. So we have a beginning. And if we, what's that? Okay, now I'm going to go over to the roll-in saw and cut through that. I'm going to weld it. Now that 4-inch ring is going to go there. I'm going to try and cut it where the ring will cover half the weld. Okay, now at my shop, I would probably, now listen to the whirring sound, I would probably MIG weld this. Do you hear it? Do you hear Francis spinning in his grave? And as evil as that sounds, it's what I would do, because I'm lazy. And I'm trying to make a profit at this. And, ooh. What's that? Anyway, I can get that to right there. And at this point, I don't much care that the whole thing's kind of scawampus because I can bend it around. I will tweak it around, and we'll make it a lot more scawampus than it is. What's that?
Is that a technical term?
I can almost hear you.
Is that a technical term?
Scawampus, yes.
I haven't heard that before, so I haven't heard that.
Oh, yeah, that's a highly technical term. Now, I brought a couple of tape measures so that I could check things at various times. I don't know if any of you ever broken a tape. There was one time in my shop, I was showing somebody something. I said, you know, it's just so easy to cut that off at the right place. And I hooked my tape on it, and I put it through my iron worker, and I hit the thing, and I cut it off right at 47.5 inches. And I looked at my tape, and I said, did I just do that? Am I that stupid? And this voice from beyond said, yes! You're just that stupid. But I have these scattered all over my shop. I have 1-footers, 2-footers, and a few 3-footers. And, you know, I have one on my bandsaw. And, you know, if I take my tape and I put it down somewhere and I walk away and it's gone, I won't see it for a week. But I've got these all over everywhere. So I go to the bandsaw, I can get, you know, a few inches. If you cut them at every foot, and they're all laid out, you know, for every foot. And, oh, you can't have enough of these. And, you know, if you break your tape somewhere down there, you can still get the one with the hook. You know, that's right there. You know, that's about 10 inches across there. So the guy that told me how to do this saved me lots of money and lots of time, and I hope that none of you this is news to, but if it is, then you should do this. It's almost worth going and getting a tape and cutting it up, just so that you've got bits and pieces, and it doesn't matter what foot it is. This is foot from 20 to 21. This one's from 0 to 1. You know, and I've got them scattered around the shop all over at various lengths, and a way handy thing to do. Anyway, does anybody here still gas weld at all? Yeah. Oh. I was talking to a welding teacher in Salt Lake. They don't teach this anymore. Are they? Well, that's well, I do it from convenient to difficult. So the single word answer to your question would be yes. And I nicked this with the bandsaw a little bit, and I can just fill this in. A little embarrassing. I didn't realize I'd done it till I got back over here. But I did. Okay. Now, I learned through painful experience that you need to do the middle ring first. Because when you do the middle ring and you kind of hammer it all back to flat, it grows. If you do the outer ring first, it grows and the outside gets longer and the inside gets smaller. And then when you want to do the middle ring, it wants to do the same thing. Everything outside of it wants to go that way, but it can't because that ring is holding it all. And then it rumples and it gets off center, kind of like that piece going around. So you do the middle ring first. It's and right now we're a little off center, but we're really not too bad. And we're just going to heat the middle of this. We're going to need to get some firing on top of that and be able to heat the middle. Thank you. Well, I'll get to it, but well, maybe I'll get to it now. What the heck? Where's the demo piece? Oh, right in front of me. If you look at this, you realize that it's over, under, over, under, over, under. And so what you need to do, I'm gonna do this in the vise or over the vise here, and I'm gonna put it like this. I'm gonna drive that down, and I'm gonna drive that down, and that down, and that down. Then I'm gonna flip it over. I'm gonna drive that down, and that down, and that down, and that down. And this is gonna twist and distort and get all funky, but I'm trying to make a place that this pretty much flat ring can weave through. That make sense? When I drew it on paper, and I started, running some lines through and erasing other lines because, that went under. So I would draw, this one solid through, this one interrupted, and I could look at my drawing and get fixed in my mind. This one, that's under, this is over. The thing goes through. I got that fixed clearly in my mind. I got really third grade about this. Draw a picture, refer back to it. Don't be afraid of looking stupid. Oh yeah. Okay, so take the ball peen hammer. Oh, now on this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive this one down because it goes over this. I want it to go under the ring, so everything is over and under. So right here, taking that, and I'm taking this one that we just welded. And I brought this little ball peen hammer because it seemed like a good idea, but you know, a good rounding hammer is nice. And the whole thing's going funky and skiwampus here. And then it'll kind of come back a little bit as we well, maybe we ought to get this warm again.
So is that a Noma expression?
What's that? No, it's a where I grew up expression, I think. You guys, things don't get scawampus in your world?
Where'd you grow up?
Salt Lake, it's probably a Lil Abner word. That's what it sounds like to me, is probably things went scawampus for Lil Abner.
Too big of a hammer?
Well, it's plenty big. Well, and sometimes I use the cross peen. You know, you can use whatever you got.
Paul, you worried about the sharp edges on the leg by splitting things here?
Not much. No, not much really, because by the time all is said and done, I'm gonna kind of hammer this to flat anyway, and any of those marks will kind of disappear. We'll hammer those out. Okay. We're probably done with this. Somebody want to put that away? It was in the thing over here. And if it doesn't get put away, it'll never get put away. If I want it again, I want to know where to look for it, because I'll get lost. Use these petting wolf jaw tongs, petting house wolf jaws. I love these tongs. And let's see. That might go. Let's see if we can feed that around. Not until that moves up. Maybe we ought to get that hot, and then it'll push and stay. If you can rake that fire up and get it a little deeper. But there comes a point where everything falls into alignment and the ring just goes around.
When you bend those out of the way, do you consciously choose the one that goes over the top?
Yes, it came over the top so that it could go down under the ring.
What would happen if you use that one to go over the top when it's already below?
Then there's nothing to really hold the ring. If you do it, the thing becomes balanced. And every time it goes over, it goes under the next thing and over the next thing and under the next thing. So as it goes over the ring, it turns a corner and goes under the ring. And then it goes over the loop and around, and the loop goes under, and you know, it just, when you draw it, you realize that every time it moves, it's over and under and over and under and over and under, and it's like threads in a cloth. You know, every one goes over and under. And if you miss one, I believe in the fabric industry they call that a slub, where something doesn't go under. It goes over, and then it goes over the next one, and then it winds up going over the next one. But are we warm? Okay. So, you know, it just goes over and under. And you just have to be willing to push this all around, trying to get it to where you want it to go, and it will. The urge to what? Well, and I do. Oh, well. We're almost there. I don't like to move, I don't like to change the roundness of the ring.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Because that is really hard to get back. So I try and leave the ring cold, or, you know, as cold as it's going to be. Well, and if maybe we can bring that other one down, if I can get it past. Isn't going to work, is it? No, it's going to bite me. Let's go back in the fire and make it warm. And we can push it.
Would it help if you left it with the toes and then hand with the toes?
Sometimes. Sometimes it just wants to fight you. And because I have people standing here watching me, or sitting here watching me, and I'm trying to look official and professional, it has taken this opportunity to give me what some people refer to as karma.
Some people refer to it as what?
Karma.
Karma. All right,
Yes.
that's what I heard you say.
Yes, well, that is what I said. Now, normally I'm not a big believer in things like that, but just this time, I'm willing to believe.
Well, there is one corollary to Murphy's Law.
There's always a corollary in
You
Murphy's Law.
don't believe in karma, you gotta believe in Murphy.
Absolutely. Huh? This might be the hardest 4-inch ring I've ever done. Very seriously, realistically, this might be the worst I've ever had. Well, some. Some difference probably. Okay. Now then, we're not nearly as wonderful as we were. And probably because I didn't bend everything just quite accurately. And there comes a point where you want to straighten things up. Now let's
So for the job, the railing job, how many of these did you make?
we made 8 or 10 for the railing job. And 8 or 10, I forgot.
I thought you said 810.
No, 8 or 10. And in Noma fashion, in Noma there's a top job competition every year. And you take pictures of your best work and you send it in, and then they're displayed at the convention without names. Everybody wanders through and they vote. You know, it's in categories. There'll be, you know, at least 5 selections in a category, and as many as 20 or so, typically. You win a plaque, an award, you know, first, second, third, you know, bronze, silver, and gold in every category. And well,
Would you like us to leave for about 20 minutes?
no. If I get this to function, I want everyone to understand that I didn't cheat. Let's see. I want everyone to believe that I actually made it. Any of you guys used to watch Saturday morning cartoons? Do you remember the Alf cartoons? One of my favorite cartoons. was Alf. Remember Alf, the puppet thing? Well, in the Alf cartoons, it was an hour-long show. And the first half was some screwed up story, fairy tale, something or other, that they acted as though they were a troupe of actors, with a theater. And then the second half of the show was Tales from Melmac when he was a young teenager. And they were hysterical. I mean, they were really funny, I thought. Perhaps you wouldn't, but I was easily entertained. And in one of them, Alf was being coached by his father to join his father's lodge, the Mayonnaise Lodge. And to join the Mayonnaise Lodge, there was a test, a physical test that you had to pass. You had to go out to the mayonnaise flats and wrestle one of the giant clams. And if you did that, then you got your mayonnaise jar hat. And if you were able to wrestle the clam and make him sing, then you got horns on your mayonnaise jar, which was a...
Did you catch up?
What's that? Yes, well. So the day comes when all the young Alfs go out to the mayonnaise flats with their parents, and they have these giant clams. They're huge, and you go into the clam, and the clam closes. So Alf gets in there, and he does not even want to join the lodge. But he doesn't want to disappoint his father. It's his dad. So he goes in and he finds this giant clam, and as he gets in there, the clam closes, and he's talking to the clam. The clam says, "What is it with you guys? You guys come out here and you're trying to make life a contact sport." He says, I don't know what it is with you. All I ever wanted to do is just, have a good life and sing. He said, "What, you want to sing?" And he says, "Yeah, that's all clams really want to do." And he says, "Well, I don't have a problem with that. We don't need to wrestle. If you want to sing, that's fine with me." It's all, and he's in there for a long time, and everybody out there thinks that Alf is dead. And all of a sudden, the clam opens, and he's standing there, arm in blob, with the clam. And the clam starts to sing. "I get no kip from clam pain." And he sings. And his father is so proud, and Alf gets the horns. And the moral of the story is with enough effort, you can wrestle the clam and make him sing. So whenever something has finally gone right, I have wrestled the clam and made him sing. And it is my fondest desire that in front of you today, I wrestle the clam. Yeah. Oh, and if I could just, I've closed up this ring just a skosh too much. And if I had a little more warm right there, I think I could make this sing. But in the sense that all of life's challenges and everything are analogous to something else, you kind of have to be searching for the singing clam analogy. But twisted mind that I am, I go there. And now that I've taken you with me, I hope it was a pleasant journey. Yes. Usually. Usually.
Sometimes
What's that?
instead of reheating the whole thing, you
Sometimes when I do the outer ones, we'll just do those one at a time. Then we'll kind of tweak them around to flat and I wouldn't know how to tell you to do it. But that seems to have gotten to a point where I can weld that. Right there. I did bevel that end a little bit last night so that I'd have a little penetration.
This is the tip you had on there.
Yeah. Who took it off?
I did.
Oh.
I thought you might want the torch for heat.
No. And put on the dark glasses. Dark glasses so new they've still got a sticker on the lens. There we go. Hold that for a second. Thank you. Yeah, for those of you who don't gas weld, you really should learn. Okay. Now then, if we grab this there, we should be able to. Let's over get those kind of aligned. Are we looking down on this? And that actually truded up a whole bunch. Let's, got a good deep fire there. Okay, let's take a good screaming heat on the whole thing. And we'll kind of tap this around and into submission. Now then, I want to move that ring around so that it's over, the weld is over, one of the bars, which will hide half the weld. And when we mash it all down together, that hides the other half of the weld. And if I had a lot of time, I could go in there now and file, grind, polish. Mark Asprey would have figured out a way to forge weld it. And he'd have really good jigging and tooling to do all the bends. He's better at that sort of thing than I am. He's got a different way of thinking about it. And as I said in the beginning, I am only showing you the way that I'm comfortable thinking about things. A mantra in my shop is, if it's not working, you're not thinking about it right. And that's not a smart aleck remark. I believe fully and honestly it is the whole truth. If you're having difficulty with something that should work, you're just not thinking about it correctly. Change the way you think. I can do this. Holy moly, look at all of that. If we had flat dies on the power hammer, I would use the power hammer. But we don't. So it doesn't have flat dies in it either. Okay, now we take the little hammer and we kind of tap things around, and that's looking. Yeah, what happened to my big hammer? Oh. Let's see. And that's. And did we move that weld around? No. Should we have? Yes. Did I catch it in time? We'll see. Yes, we did. I think. Okay. Man. Did the ring move? Yes. But it's still not too far Gowampus. Oh, we may just wind up living with that. Okay. Let's go to there. Give me some air. Okay, we're going to come back to here. What's that? Oh, yeah, I probably ought to. Thought it was dark in here. Okay. Now then, this goes over that, so it goes down to go under. And that one goes over, it goes down. And that one goes down very nearly. Okay. So here we have in theory, that should go, right? And I'd tap it a little more, but oh yeah, we got, can you see that? Can you see through there? We got a lot of hole right through the middle, and it's kind of in line with the middle. And we can make this work just right. We'll be able to just thread the ring right through there. Let's do it again.
We'd like to take a break at 3 o'clock.
Oh,
For a few
okay.
minutes.
Yeah, well, that should be a good moment. Yeah, okay.
You got flat down on the trailer over there.
What's that?
You got flat down on the trailer over there.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we could use that. Well, that's not going to move, is it?
Hold it down, you can,
Here's another one over here. It's not.
it won't hit as hard as this one.
We'd have to move this a little bit. And we could.
Probably enough in it.
I'm just supporting. Okay, that's okay. Now then, that goes over, so this one goes down. That goes down, this goes down. We flip it over. And this goes down. And that goes down. And down. And boy, we got some serious uglies there, but that might. Okay.
So Paul, down on the outside ring match the down what I'm seeing from here.
I'm a little lost. What?
Did I wander off when you started driving the downward loops on your outer ring?
Well, as this line here came over that line, I knew that that had to go down so that the ring could go over it. Because the ring would, this ring was under, this ring will be over. And then it comes around and goes over the ring and under that one. So, because I drew it that way, and I traced it with my finger repeatedly all the way around, I knew that that's what would happen. Oh, do we have a rasp? Yeah, we got a big rasp I can clean that up with a little bit while it's, because that is really butt ugly now. Oh yeah, you should have oodles of room, and it's pretty much no, it's- that should go. Okay. It doesn't look like it'll ever be smooth again, does it? Huh? No, it doesn't. So do we have this? If I'll deal with this, you deal with that? Okay. Okay. Okay.
No, it's hard.
Okay, so right here, down. And we got oodles of room once again. Right there. And we go back into the device. Okay. And that looks to be about the place. And then the last go. I'm used to working in a coke forge where everything's all just loose and you stick it in and it just covers over and you rake it in and it's good. And the coal fire is not worse, it's different. And I'm just really not used to it. And I know that people who work in coal all the time, you give them coke and they go, what's this crap? It doesn't build up right. You know, no, it doesn't. It's completely different. That one's a little snugger than I expected it to be. We can take care of that. Okay. And that's not far from there. Let's see what Mr. Ring says. Let's see if this. See which one is out. Oh. That's good. Yeah, that might be it. Let's see. Usually there's one that if you start with that one, it all goes. And it might have been that one.
But just roll around, I'll put this one in and put these guys.
It might be. There we go. And there we go. Now I have done a couple of these where it just slid in. Of course, you'll never see that. But it's happened before. There we go. Is everybody still awake?
How many of these did you have to make?
What?
How many of these did you have to make?
Oh, it was 8 or 10. It was less than a dozen. I've made a couple of dozen over the years, but years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago now, when Craig May was president, he called me up and he said, would you do an RMS meeting? And I said, well, yeah, if anybody'd come. And pretty much he did. I love Craig May. I realize he's vowed not to be with us for a while, but he came. Do we have a bending fork? Behind me? Oh, yeah. That might be. Oh, well. That's going to be. Oops. I'm wrestling the clam. And when you make that reference, as I hope some of you will one day, people will look at you with the oddest looks. But when you say to them, I have wrestled the clam and I made him sing, they will know that there is some inside joke that they are not a party to. And I think I'm just going to try taking this one from the other side. How come that one doesn't want to come over here? That's better. We're close. We're not there, but we're... What's that? How much what? No. I'm about there. This is going. Talk to me. Okay, we're just about threaded through here. That's Now then, when we start to flatten this out, it'll give us a lot more room because all of this will flatten and it'll go and it'll be nicer. But until then, we've got to get this end for end so I can weld it. Oh, we're there. Okay. Back in 10 minutes, and yeah, and we'll go on, and I'll see if I can't get this tweaked up just right.